Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city, and Also Asked is the only tool to access live People Also Ask data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com.
Tired of SEO guesswork? Quadra's AI agent goes deeper to uncover high-impact optimizations and completes hours of SEO in minutes. Get started now.
I was going to say that SEO with Fat Joe is as peaceful as this, but then the birds are all having fights.
Cool. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me this morning. Again, just to echo Sarah, I hope there's not too many sore heads. But today I'm going to talk through some of the ways we're able to save time, work around some roadblocks, scale up performance with AI for our client New Look in what is and a continuing decline in the fashion market and still deliver growth. So I'm sure we've all been there. As either an agency service or as a channel owner internally. You've got really ambitious targets to hit, but your resource is more stretched than ever before. For me, it makes me want to cry into a bucket. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. This is a challenge we face with New Look. So we had a smaller team to work with internally. They were no less demanding in requests. So as their agency partner, they were after anything from a performance perspective, all the way through to search trends for their given category. And also had kind of limited SEO know-how. So they didn't have the ability to apply what those changes in search trends in relation to performance and ultimately what did good look like. And additionally, and kind of key point here, which we'll run through the presentation, is they had no development resource. So what we would have to do is innovate around that. So my first thought was, going to need a ton of this just for men. Got to keep those grey hairs at bay somehow. My second thought was, how can we do more with what we've got? But what did we have? We had lots of search data, but it was really difficult for teams to access. We had a moderate category set, but with a huge range of products, so there was potentially a lot of scope for us to scale up. And products themselves were under-optimized, so they could be pushed way harder to drive performance. So when we first partnered with New Look, we had lots and lots of requests from their internal team. Again, this ranged from anything from reporting on performance into a specific category, what was search trends into those specific categories, search data for products that they were potentially bringing into site. So what was the size of prize for those? What was the opportunity around that they could potentially be tapping into? Ultimately, this created a huge sense of overwhelm for us. Ultimately, it meant that we weren't able to do what we're good at, so making changes on site to drive performance and deliver against our KPIs. And their limited SEO know-how, it was really difficult for them to contextualize what performance was, either potentially a true ranking issue or a change in consumer behavior, which was resulting in either good or bad performance for their own category. And the data itself, when it came to them, was probably a little bit overwhelming. So there was often so much for it, for them to carve through, that it was really hard to see the wood through the trees and where the opportunity was. So what we did as a result was build a tool. So this tool blends a combination of Google data as well as machine learning. And we catalogued all of this, built out a huge database of phrases entirely around their keyword universe. Ultimately, what you get is a really unique set of data that tells you about the demand for a given keyword or category set. The really unique part of this is that we were able to ingest the data weekly. So every other SEO search data you get is at a monthly cadence. What this means is that we were able to align much closer to how a trading team works and give those market contexts, that market insight at a weekly level against their trading week. So a really simple, kind of yet powerful example of this is that we saw a trend around shackets. So in week, we saw shackets see an increase in an increase in demand, up 50% on the year. We checked on site, ample product. Merchandising team agreed there was a really good opportunity, but ultimately they had no category to really service that product really well, rank really well in search. So again, from our perspective, something we could potentially be capitalising on. So what we did, created a category, and as a result, ranked really well, sold huge volumes. And I guess this is a bit of a so what, right? Obviously, you'd expect to start ranking for something if you create a category for it, create really good content for it. With a site as authoritative as New Look, obviously you're probably going to have a good chance of ranking really well. That's a bit of a given. I think the key thing here is being able to see that data in the tool in that week, therefore 4 times faster than every other competitor that could potentially be going after that trend, and then capitalising as much on that demand as possible. So the key benefits here, again, we had that search demand in week versus monthly. Again, we can hustle, we can align against that trading week. We can be going after those opportunities in a really tough market, seeing those green shoots. We had the ability to contextualise demand against the rest of the market, so against the rest of the category set. What did good look like? What was declining? Where should we be steering our focus more and more of our time? And allow teams to self-serve. So it was a really simple UI. They could get that data, feed that right through the business, and make decisions based on that data. So if I said to you, you could save more than 35,000 hours worth of work, you'd probably bite my arm off. But we did that, and this is how. So as every kind of SEO would, you'd start by looking at what you had from a keyword or category level. What share of market did you have where you were already winning? What was the serviceable, addressable market and where you could potentially be tapping into a little bit more? But ultimately what we did is look at the broader piece. So what was the total addressable market? What was the entire sector saying that we could potentially be driving more incremental performance into? So to get to that level, we created a deep mining script into the keyword planner using a list of primary phrases. And this returned more than 40,000 potential keywords. It's a huge range of opportunity. On closer inspection, it was pretty clear there was a lot of refining needed. There was a mix of brand terms, product searches that New Look as a brand would never go after. So given that volume, we decided on creating an AI prompt to filter out and give us a list of negatives, and therefore what was the opportunities that we could be capitalising on. After filtering with AI, we uncovered 5,000 media opportunities, and this was a mix of colour variants, material, style, sleeve length, etc. So we had all this opportunity. We said to the internal team, and they could support us. They said they could create 10 a week. By that math, that's nearly 500 days to action. And when you've got challenging targets, you've got KPIs to meet, it's obviously not very feasible. Oh, sorry. And then, obviously, if you're going to go after more long-tail variants, which is what we kind of typically saw, is that you would probably look to configure your faceted nav around that. Again, we didn't have any development resource, and the faceted nav on New Look at the time wasn't set up from a search engine perspective. But obviously, it's very complex. Even kind of trying to take on the nature of something like a faceted nav, you can get bogged down very quickly. That's going to take a long time to get into. So again, probably not an avenue you can go down. And having all of that opportunity, but no immediate way to scale in an efficient way was really, really frustrating for us. So for me, this is really kind of massive for anyone that kind of leans into the kind of technical aspect of SEO. But effectively knowing your site's tech stack end to end can pay huge dividends for you. In addition to that, knowing the right people to speak to. So something that might typically fall into a dev stream, a dev backlog, can turn into a config stream. Therefore, you can action that far quicker. Therefore, you can reap the benefits of that, and everything can kind of go for you really nicely. So we knew that for New Look. We knew that they had Akamai at the top of the tech stack. And you can do so much here at this level. So anything from redirects to if you wanted to bomb a load of low-value URLs with a 410, you can do that at Akamai level. Doesn't need dev. You can do it as a config stream. But what we did here for New Look, really simply, was created a like-for-like site to New Look on their subdomain. We then linked this into the New Look domain by using a reverse proxy. And this meant that any URL created would sit in a subfolder and therefore inherit the site's authority, therefore give us the best opportunity to rank for anything that we were creating. And all of the URLs that we created ended up sitting in this right-hand side into the UK/B URL string, entirely external to the core tech stack. So yeah, in effect, we can create categories at scale, any URLs at scale, really. Entirely, again, external to the core tech stack, and create huge volumes and try and capitalize on the opportunity. And that's what we've done. So to help us get there, we used AI to bulk create and populate all of the kind of fundamental SEO elements. We had New Look's tone of voice built in. We replicated the site's front end. So it gave it the exact look and feel, gave the customers the same shopping experience as the core site. And as well, created an automated XML and HTML sitemap to obviously increase findability from a search engine perspective, get them crawled, hopefully ranking really, really quickly. And internal links were clustered and programmatically created as well. This helped us save time from that perspective. And again, great. Getting those new categories immediately exposed to Google gives us the best chance of driving benefit. Ongoing, we've created a UI to help identify those opportunities and keep building out that category set. And in totality, the tech setup time for this was within 21 days, 168 hours. And we created more than 5,000 new categories within the first 2 months. And really rough math, but ultimately saved teams 500 days, 40,000 hours worth of work. So a huge win, able to scale up, drive performance. Yeah, pretty cool piece of work, we think. So similar to earlier, the same question I kind of posed. If I can make your working week 40% more efficient, you'd probably bite my other arm off. New Look's product range was increasing, becoming far more diverse, and this was putting serious pressure on them to deliver against that, and ultimately creating a backlog of getting products, those new products onto site as quickly as possible. This gave us plenty of food for thought, because obviously having more product on site, having more enriched categories is really going to help us from a category level. The keywords that we're typically trying to rank really well from an SEO perspective. But we would need to help them be more efficient and therefore allow us to fully reap the benefits. So we created an AI prompt that used image information and user-defined attributes. And from that output, this was enough to fall into kind of the next cycle. Because we had already done a load of AI work on the category pages, kind of perfected the tone of voice and the output of that from the work that I've just spoken to. We were able to get a really nice piece of descriptive and enriched output, which was in an ideal state ready for human approval. We also made sure we were ingesting our keyword set at the same time to make sure we had those SEO principles at the very core of what we were doing from a product level. This was a gap previously, but also, it was key for us to make sure we're driving up more relevancy at every level of the site. So by doing this, product naming was more true to product and richer in detail. And this allowed us to form a basis of being able to merge these products more into site because they're more descriptive and they could be, therefore, as they're in more categories, they're more findable, and therefore we can drive up revenue as a result. And product descriptions were far more detailed and, again, had the basics from an SEO perspective ingrained from the get-go. And we also added deeper product attributes. This was purely to further enrich that content and give more reasons for customers to buy that product and, again, drive more revenue benefit. We also created a UI. From a product level, we probably couldn't import products straight into site with AI. There's a bit of brand protection around that, so we always put this in place so their team could give a first pass from a human level. But once that's been okayed, that moves into an approved list and then is added into site. So obviously we saved time, but we drove some performance from an SEO perspective, but also benefit into Google Shopping because we were making those product naming more descriptive. But crucially, allowed teams to deliver more product to site, made them work more efficient, made them very happy. Cool. Thank you very much.